Making a no-bake cheesecake is super easy and you only need a few ingredients. Today I'm going to show you how to make a key lime version of a no-bake cheesecake. It's absolutely delicious. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today's recipe is very simple. It is a no-bake cheesecake. I'm gonna make mine into a key lime version, but you could use the same basic technique and make a traditional cheesecake without the flavoring. That would work perfectly fine. You also don't need any special appliances, but I'll get into that as I start to use the ones that I'm gonna use in the video because it does make life a little bit easier. First thing we're gonna do is make the crust. Now, the crust could be anything you want it to be. With the key lime version, I like to use ginger snaps as the base. That's what I do in my key lime pie, and it's so delicious. So I'm gonna carry that over from that recipe and do the same crust that I did for my traditional key lime pie recipe. So what it is 8 ounces of ginger snaps, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 4 tablespoons of butter, it can be salted or unsalted, it just needs to be melted, and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And we're gonna mix all this up and get it into the pie pan. To make it easier, I'm gonna use a little blender type of attachment here and just make the crumbs from the cookies. So I'm gonna put those in here and get that done really fast. Usually I do it by hand with a bag and a rolling pin or my meat tenderizer, but today I thought, let's make it a little easier. So I'm just gonna use the little blender attachment here. Set that to the side. I'm gonna reuse that bowl, but I'll just set it over there. Hopefully I did not make these too tall to get in there. No, there we go. All right, so just screw on the lid, and then I'm just gonna pulse it here. All right, that looks good. Now for this recipe, I do recommend taking your cookies or your graham crackers, because you could certainly use graham cracker crust, to a fine crumb. That is gonna help it hold together the best, since we're not even going to blind bake the crust like we do sometimes when we're making other types of pies with a cookie crust. So I'm just this is gonna be totally done with just the refrigerator. All right, so get those in. Put in your 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and your 4 tablespoons of melted butter, and mix it around so that all of the cookie crumbles are kind of coated with the butter. And I will show you in just a minute how to tell if you have enough butter in your mix, because you may need more. I may need more today. Really depends on the cookie that you're using, or the cracker, if you're using a graham cracker or some other kind of cracker, because you could even use Ritz crackers. I mean, Ritz crackers would make a really great crust for a key lime pie, in my opinion. Different, but I think it'd be good. This is looking pretty good though, so I don't think I'm gonna need more, but the key way to tell is when we go to put it into the springform pan. And I'm using, I think it's a 7 3/4 inch springform pan. I got this from Pampered Chef, but any 7 or 8 inch springform pan will work fine. You could use a larger one as well. If you have a 9 inch, you could use that. Just keep in mind that your cheesecake won't be as tall as mine. It'll be a little bit lower. All right, that's great. So now what I do is just dump the crust right into the springform pan. Now, I don't line my pan with parchment paper in this recipe, but you certainly can if you wanted to use a parchment round right on the bottom. That would be fine. So just dump the entire mixture right in there. And work on the sides first, because it's gonna let you know if your cookie mixture has enough liquid butter, in this instance, in it. Because if it doesn't, it won't hold to the sides. If it does, it'll hold to the sides really nicely. So I'm just gonna press it down on the sides here. It's looking pretty good. All right, so that looks great. And the sides are holding up. So if I twirl this around, the sides are not coming crumbling down, so I know that my mixture has the right amount of butter in it. So we're good to go. Now we need to make sure that we have enough to cover the bottom. And if you use too much on the sides and you don't have enough to cover the bottom, just sort of go around with your finger like that and just sort of brush some off until you have enough to completely cover the bottom with a nice solid layer. This is looking absolutely perfect. I can go back and fix things if I need to, but really this is looking great. All right, so now while we make the filling, I am gonna stick this in the freezer. You don't absolutely have to do that, but I did find that it helped it set up a little quicker. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. You could even put it in the refrigerator if you don't have enough space in your freezer. I've also done it just leaving it room temperature, so it works anyway, but. All right, so let me go pop that in, and then we'll get the cheesecake filling ingredients. We'll get that whipped up. It only takes probably 5 or 10 minutes. Then we'll get our pie in the refrigerator to chill. Okay, so for the filling, it's going to be a combination of cream cheese flavored with key lime juice and whipping cream. And then you fold it together and it makes this light and fluffy cheesecake that you don't have to bake because there's no raw eggs in it. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is put in 1 cup of heavy whipping cream into my stand mixer here. Go ahead and open that up. I have the whisk attachment on. Now you can do this several different ways. You can whip cream by hand with just a whisk until it becomes thick and fluffy. You can use a hand beater to do it, so an electric hand mixer like you would use for mashed potatoes, you could do that. You can use a stand mixer if you have one. That's really quick and easy. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and lock the mixer into place and turn it on. I start off on medium, and as it thickens, I go up to the high speed. That's gonna prevent all the cream from flying out of your mixer. Okay, time to go up to high. All right, it looks like it's good. Now, the consistency that you want for the whipped cream is going to be not really firm peaks like sometimes recipe will call for. I go for softer peaks because it makes it easier to incorporate into the cream cheese mixture later. So these are good to go here. Yep, it looks firm enough that it's gonna help hold the cheesecake, up, so to speak, so it's nice and light and fluffy, but it is not so hard that it's gonna be difficult to incorporate. Absolutely delicious. Okay, even though it's not sweetened, and it doesn't need to be sweetened. We'll have the sweetener in the other part. All right, so then transfer your whipped cream to a large bowl. And you don't even need to clean out the bowl, so don't worry about that. You can leave it just like that, perfectly fine, to move on to the next step, which again, you do not need the stand mixer to do it. It just makes it easy. I use the paddle attachment. You can do this with a hand mixer. You could even do it by hand, but it would be a little bit more difficult. 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese, real full-fat cream cheese is what you want for this recipe. 1/2 of a cup of powdered sugar plus 2 tablespoons. I found that 1/2 of a cup was not quite sweet enough, but 3/4 of a cup was a little too sweet. So 1/2 of a cup of powdered sugar plus 2 tablespoons is what I'm using in this recipe. The reason why I'm using the powdered sugar instead of a granulated sugar is because it's gonna incorporate smoother into the mix. You won't have any gritty taste to your cheesecake. Because we're not baking it, the sugar's not going to dissolve. All right, that goes in. Now, the key lime juice. If you're lucky enough to have access to key limes, fresh key limes, which are tiny little limes, you certainly can squeeze them and get the juice to equal 1/4 of a cup. However, I can never find key limes around me, but I can always find Nellie and Joe's key lime juice, and I use this all the time. It is fantastic. People ask a lot, can you use regular limes? Not really. They are a different flavor, and you're gonna have a very strong tasting lime pie. It's gonna be pretty bitter. You'll have to use more sugar if you try to do it with just regular limes. But I do use the zest of one lime, and that's because I can't find key limes. So if you have key limes, zest a couple of them first, then juice them to get your 1/4 cup. So you can go ahead and put that in. And I'm gonna zest this, and I'll zest it right over. I really should have not put this on yet. It's just getting in my way. And then I'm just gonna zest the lime. And I'm careful that I don't get the white part because that's the pith and it's very bitter. And it will leave a bitter taste in your pie. So I just get the green part, lightly zest. There's a spot, I've got a spot on my lime. I just don't go there to zest it. And I don't throw away my limes. So just because I zested this lime doesn't mean I can't use it for juice. So you can do one or two things if you need lime or lemon zest in a recipe, but it doesn't call for the juice. You can throw it into the freezer just like this, and then when you're ready to juice it, bring it out, roll it, and go ahead and juice it. Or you can cut it and juice it now and then freeze the juice. Either way is fine. But you can't leave them out once they're zested because they will get really hard and they just dry up very fast. Like within a day or two, they'll be totally dry. You won't get any juice out of them. All right, one more ingredient that is totally optional. You do not need to use it, but I like to add in key lime oil just as a little flavor booster. I have had somebody test the recipe without this. She said it was absolutely delicious. So I do know that the recipe will have enough flavor without this addition. But I just happen to like that little extra. And I have them on hand because I make cookies with them. And in fact, I have a recipe for key lime cooler cookies coming soon. Oh, they're delicious. I'm gonna add 1/2 of a teaspoon. A little goes a long way. And now we're gonna mix this up until it's nice and smooth. The paddle attachment works the best for this. And I like to go on a low and then maybe a medium speed, but I don't go up on high speed because you'll just get stuff everywhere. Okay, so once the mixture is combined and smooth, if you have any like little stubborn lumps, like I've got a couple here, you can certainly go up to high speed now. Won't do any harm because all of the liquid has mixed in now, so you won't have splatters and everything. So I see a couple areas here where I've got a few lumps, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it up to high just for about a minute or so, and then it will be nice and smooth. Perfect. All right. And that's it. That's how easy it is. All right, so now we're gonna fold in the whipped cream into the cream cheese mixture. So what I do is just grab about 1/2 cup or so, put it into the mixture here, and then in a folding fashion, I just gently fold in the whipping cream. You do not want to beat this in. You want it to stay light and fluffy. You don't want to deflate the cream too much, because that's going to give this really nice consistency to your cheesecake. All right, so we just keep doing that with all of the cream. Once it's a uniform color and all of the whipping cream has been folded in, we're ready to grab our pie crust, get the filling in it, and then get it into the fridge. All right, once all of it's in, we're just gonna push it down here and smooth it out a little bit. And that's it. All right, so I just pop a cover on. You could use foil, saran wrap. I just use these silicone covers. I'm gonna pop it in the refrigerator and let it sit up for at least 4 hours. I really find that 6 to 8 is better. So if you wanna make it the night before and put it in the fridge overnight and then serve it the next day, that'll be perfect. So my pie was in the refrigerator for 2 full days because I got busy and I couldn't find the time to film it yesterday. So this is gonna be interesting though. I've never left the pie in the refrigerator for 2 full days before removing the outer shell. So I wonder, is it gonna stick? Ooh, I'm a little nervous about that. But anyway, this will be good. Then you'll know if it sticks, you know to definitely within 8 to 12 hours, take the mold off the side. All right, here we go. So what I like to do is take a little cake tester that has this little part here. Because it's plastic, it's not gonna scratch my nonstick pan, but you could use anything, you know, that you have. And I just go around the edges a little bit just to loosen it, just a little bit here. All right. Oh, look. As long as I can get this off. Oh, look. No, it's perfect. Oh, phew. I was really sweating that. Okay, so no, this is great. In fact, it might even be better. So yeah, so definitely refrigerate it up to 2 days, 3 days if you want. But don't freeze it. Now, I should go over that real quick before I cut it. You don't want to freeze this. Normally, cheesecakes are perfectly fine to put in the freezer. But this one, because of the whipped cream in there, once you freeze it, it's going to get really liquidy in my experience. So I don't recommend freezing this pie. But it will stay good for quite a while in the refrigerator. I would say at least 4 to 5 days. Okay, here we go. Now, this is serrated. I have one that's not serrated, but I couldn't find it. But this might put some marks in it, but you know, it is what it is. It's plastic, and I try to use plastic when I can so I don't scratch the bottom here. All right. I'm making a mess. Oh well, it doesn't matter, right? Oh my goodness, this looks so good. Oh, wow, that is delicious. It is so light. You can definitely get the hint of the cream cheese. The lime flavor is spectacular. It's a little tangy. It's not overly sweet. If you want a sweeter pie, add more confectioner sugar for sure. And this pie crust, the ginger snaps. The best. I hope you give that a try because the ginger snaps pair with that lime so perfectly. But remember, you can use graham cracker. You can use any type of cookie crust you want. You can even change up the lime flavor for a different flavor. You don't have to make key lime. You can use the same exact recipe and put in a different type of flavoring. It would be just fine. But in place of the key lime juice, if you don't have something, you know, liquid that you can put in, add a little bit of milk to it and it should be just fine. As always, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.